Hi, hello everybody. Welcome to this paper session on inclusive VR. In this session, we will have presentations of three very interesting studies, all of them presenting contributions that should help us designing better VR applications for all. As we keep making advances in VR, it's also very important that it's accessible. So contributions in this front are always welcome. So I'm very happy for the presentations we have prepared here today. During the presentations, please post your questions for any of the authors in the corresponding channel on Discord. After the presentations, the authors will have the chance to answer the questions. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to start by welcoming Fei Wu from University of Minnesota, who is presenting a solution to minimize cybersickness in VR. Fei?
Hello, everyone. My name is Fei Wu. I'm a PhD student at the University of Minnesota. The paper I'm going to present today is Asymmetric Lateral Field of View Restriction to Mitigate Cybersickness During Virtual Turns. In this paper, we propose an asymmetric field of view restrictor to reduce discomfort in virtual reality during virtual turns. Although virtual reality had been gaining in popularity, many users continue to report discomfort during and after the use of VR applications and experience symptoms associated with motion sickness. To mitigate this problem, a dynamic field of view restriction is a common technique that has been widely used in commercial VR games. Although restricting the field of view during movement can improve comfort, the commonly used restrictor is implemented using a symmetric mask that blocks imagery in the periphery of the visual field. This reduces users' visibility of the virtual environment and can negatively impact their sense of presence. To address those problems, we propose and evaluate a novel variant of field of view restriction, which we refer to as the side restrictor. Our technique uses an asymmetric mask that obscures only one side region of the periphery during virtual rotation. If the user turns virtually to the left or right, or virtually moves forward or backward and physically turns left or right, the field of view is restricted only on the side opposite to the turn direction. This restrictor in the turning direction is stretched so that the leftmost or rightmost point is positioned at infinity, and the view on the side into the turn remains visible. The center also shifts laterally in the direction of the turn. If the user moves virtually forward or backward, the field of view is restricted symmetrically, similar to the standard implementation. If the user stops moving virtually, the field of view is unrestricted. We hypothesize that keeping the turning side visible will achieve a better cost-benefit trade-off between comfort and experience of the virtual world. We conducted a study to compare the side restrictor with the standard symmetric restrictor during navigation through a complex maze-like virtual environment. A control condition without field of view restriction was also included. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this experiment was conducted remotely. The study was conducted using a between subjects design, and a total of 93 participants completed the task at home using their own Oculus Quest headset. The experiment lasted about 20 to 30 minutes. The order in which the three conditions were assigned to participants was randomly shuffled. Users were required to virtually traverse the maze following the paths indicated by gold coins. They were able to virtually move forward or backward using a controller and turn virtually using a controller or physically rotating their head. The field of view restrictor was displayed dynamically during virtual movement. At various checkpoints through the maze, users were rated their discomfort level using a 10-point scale. They also completed questionnaires before and after the virtual reality session. We evaluated the performance of the 3 conditions using 5 metrics. I will show the metric and the corresponding results. The responses on the simulator sickness questionnaire were used to compute the overall SSQ score before and after completing the navigation task. The result shows that users reported significantly lower cybersickness when using the side restrictor compared to the condition without restriction. 2 dependent variables were calculated from the discomfort scores for each condition. The participants' time-weighted average discomfort score and the relative discomfort score. The result shows that users reported significantly lower average and relative discomfort score when using the side restrictor compared to the condition without restriction. Because the navigation task terminated when the participant felt motion sick or entered a discomfort score of 10. The amount of time spent in the virtual environment and the total number of completed trials are recorded. The result shows that participants using the side restrictor persisted significantly longer in the virtual environment and completed a greater number of trials compared to the condition without restriction. The feedback post questionnaire asked participants to rate agreement with the following 2 statements on a 7-point Likert scale. The first statement is, it was difficult to see the virtual environment while turning. The second statement is, I had a sense of being present in the virtual environment. These are 2 statements that we use to measure the user's visibility and presence. The result shows that users reported significantly worse visibility when using the symmetric restrictor compared to the side restriction and the condition without restriction. So all results show that the side restrictor can benefit in reducing cybersickness and improve user comfort during virtual locomotion. It also benefits in improving users' visibility of the virtual environment compared to the commonly used symmetric restrictor. The side restrictor also allowed users to stay in the virtual environment for a longer period of time. Furthermore, we didn't observe any negative side effects when compared to the symmetric restrictor. In summary, the asymmetric side field of view restriction appears to be an effective cybersickness mitigation technique for virtual reality experiments that involve frequent virtual turning. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wu, for the presentation. Great work. If you have any questions for Wu, please remember to place your questions on Discord. And now I would like to introduce Samuel Ang from the University of Texas at San Antonio, which also focus on cybersickness. And you can present now, Samuel.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Samuel Ang, and yes, I'm a grad student from the University of Texas at San Antonio. One moment while I share my presentation. All right, here we go. Hello, my name is Sam Ang, and this is a presentation for our 2022 IEEE VR paper, You're in for a bumpy ride, uneven terrain, increases cybersickness while navigating with head-mounted displays. We'll begin with some introduction and background. Cybersickness continues to hamper the adoption and accessibility of VR technologies. This is a collection of negative symptoms akin to motion sickness that some experience in VR, such as headache, nausea, sweating, and more. We know that many factors in a simulation can impact cybersickness. Things like optical flow, the visual information moving past you, your method of movement, your body's physical position, virtual geometry, and plenty of other things as well. Our paper examines the effects of virtual terrain traversal on cybersickness. We explore whether different types of traversable terrain can have different impacts, primarily flat surfaces to uneven terrain. Researchers have been hard at work developing flexible techniques to reduce cybersickness. Some common techniques include image blurring, reduction to field of view, and the use of virtual rest frames. These techniques and others like them carry drawbacks, however, in that they occlude visual information. Ideally, we'd like virtual environments to be designed so that they're as comfortable as possible to begin with, so that users don't have to rely on these techniques if they don't need to. As I just mentioned, this element of design we're investigating is virtual terrain traversal. Research on this topic appears to be very sparse. The closest we could find was a 2014 paper by Dorado and Figueroa. These authors examined staircase traversal in VR and were able to greatly reduce cybersickness by placing an invisible ramp over the stairs to smooth the user's movement. In our study, we wanted to examine a broader use case in which users could navigate a more open environment on their own terms. To dive into some motivation, terrain traversal is a factor in any simulation with ground-bound movement, and we'd like to help developers make better educated decisions when designing these environments. In our study, we examined 3 terrain conditions. These were flat terrain, terrain with regular bumps, and irregular terrain generated from purlin noise. All 3 are pictured on the right in that order. Participants navigated these environments using a steering metaphor. This was done just by holding down the thumbstick on a controller to move in a particular direction at a set velocity. We recruited 40 participants from the University of Texas at San Antonio and from the surrounding area. 2 of these participants were excluded from our analysis, leaving us with data from 38 participants. We were able to achieve a fairly even gender ratio and an age range from 18 to 65, with a mean age of 34.8 years old. We measured cybersickness using 3 metrics. First was the fast motion sickness scale. Participants rated their level of discomfort from 1 to 10 every 30 seconds they were in VR. Next is the simulator sickness questionnaire. Participants completed one of these after each VR session. The questionnaire includes subscores for nausea, ocular motor, and disorientation issues. Finally, we measured galvanic skin response. For the duration of the study, this was collected via a E4 Empatica wristband that participants wore the entire time they were there. To explain the task further, participants walked around this loop pictured here for 3 periods of 5 minutes each. This was a within-subject study, so each participant walked around the loop with each terrain type present in counterbalanced order. Here we have an overview of the study procedure. Participants first had the task explained to them with a diagram. They filled out some background information, a consent form, and a baseline SSQ. They were then fitted with the VR headset. This was followed by a 1-minute-long practice session in VR so that they could become familiar with the head-mounted display and with the controls. Next, participants navigated the loop for 5 minutes under one of the terrain conditions, reporting their discomfort every 30 seconds. After each trial, they removed the head-mounted display and completed a SSQ. We then had participants wait until they reported a discomfort level of 1 outside of VR before moving to the next trial. For some participants, this was right away, so we asked that they wait at least 60 seconds before starting the next trial. Moving on to some results, we averaged each participant's ratings to arrive at an overall fast motion sickness score for each condition. Results from the fast motion sickness scale indicate that participants had overall greater levels of discomfort while navigating the uneven terrain variants, the regular bumps, and the purlin noise. Mean FMS scores across all times were lowest for the flat terrain condition, followed by the regular bumps condition, and then followed by the purlin noise condition. We also collected the maximum score reported by each participant. We performed a statistical analysis on these results. A post hoc Wilcoxon signed rank test with Bonferroni correction revealed significant differences between the mean overall scores of both uneven conditions compared to the flat terrain variant. This also held true for differences between the maximum scores of the flat and purlin noise variants. Results from the simulator sickness questionnaire reinforce this. Mean total scores were the lowest for the flat terrain condition, followed by those of the regular bumps condition, and followed by those from the purlin noise condition, which had the highest total SSQ scores. Our statistical analysis once again found significant differences between the flat terrain variant and both uneven conditions. Galvanic skin response was highest for the regular bumps condition, followed by Perlin noise, and then followed by the flat condition. A Friedman rank sum test did not find any significance here, however. In conclusion, subjective metrics from our study indicate that uneven terrain can have a negative impact on cybersickness. One explanation for this is the postural instability theory of cybersickness, that virtual inclines impact our ability to stay upright and lead to the emergence of negative side effects. We hope that this information will help designers create more accommodating virtual environments and exercise caution when incorporating uneven terrain into their simulations. All right, that is the presentation. Are we doing questions after everything's gone through? All right, excellent.
Yes, so thank you very much, Samuel, for the presentation. If anyone has questions for Samuel, please use the Discord channel, and after the presentations, we'll go through them together. Right now, we have the presentation from Rasel Mahmud, also from the University of Texas at San Antonio, and this time presenting his solution for balance improvement in VR.
Yes, so just let me share the screen. Hello, I'm Rasel Mahmud. I'm very happy to share my research work, auditory feedback for standing balance improvement in virtual reality. Virtual reality techniques are becoming more popular day by day in many sectors like rehabilitation, education, physical fitness, and entertainment. However, one of the major issues with VR that it causes imbalance for users, which is severe for people with disabilities. Because people with disabilities usually have some balance issues, and added imbalance by VR makes it difficult for them to benefit from the consumer VR applications. To solve this issue, we evaluated the effect of different auditory feedback on balance in VR. The purpose of this research is to make immersive VR more accessible. There are several motivations behind this work. Many prior research have investigated the imbalance effect caused by VR, but minimal research has been conducted to reduce this effect. Also, most previous research also only included the participant without disabilities. Most rehabilitative approaches to improve balance have not used head-mounted displays or usually constrained to seated tasks. So we used head-mounted displays and evaluated standing tasks in our study. Spatial, center of pressure, rhythmic, static rest frame audio improved balance in the non-VR environment, which motivated us to investigate this auditory feedback in VR. We recruited 42 participants from the San Antonio area. 21 participants had balance impairments and 21 participants are without balance impairments. We had one baseline without VR condition. We also had 5 VR conditions. For spatial audio, we played specialized white noise from Unity 3D using Google Resonance Audio SDK. For static rest frame audio, we played a white noise in headphones. It had no relation to the listener's position. For rhythmic audio, we played a white noise beat at every 1 second interval. For COP audio, we played white noise in headphones, but the pitch and stereo pan changed based on the center of pressure path obtained from the balance board. For no audio, participants still out the headphones to make it consistent with other conditions, but no audio was played. This was the standing visual exploration task. We placed different markers, left, right, top, bottom, front, in respective directions in the lab. We wanted all the participants to observe the lab in a controlled fashion. We collected real-time balance data from Bittrex balance pad. This was a standing reach and grab tasks. Participant reached for and grabs real and virtual object within their reach. We instructed the participant to grab 4 objects in random order, leave the object to chest level, and put them back in the same place. The flowchart shows the entire study procedure. Participant read and signed a consent form at the beginning. Then participant filled out a COVID-19 screening questionnaire, handed that question ABC and SSQ questionnaire. For the baseline task, participant stood in a bittrex balance plate while they are supported by a harness to protect them from falling. Then we measured their balance for the standing visual exploration tasks and standing reach and grasp tasks with 3 trials each. For the VR tasks, these are the all replication of the baseline tasks, except they are performed in VR. We repeated the standing visual exploration tasks and standing reach and grasp tasks for 5 different VR conditions with 3 trials for each session. The auditory conditions and the tasks are counterbalanced. Finally, participants filled a post-session SSQ form and a demographic questionnaire. Center of pressure velocity was the primary metric for our study. We calculated COP velocity from the balance board data to measure participants' balance. ABC questionnaire is a 16-item questionnaire where each item asks participants' confidence in doing a specific daily life activity. SSQ is also a 16-item questionnaire where each item asks participant physiological discomfort. For statistical analysis, subgroup unit tests revealed that the data are normal. Next, we used 2x6 mixed model ANOVA, where we had 2 between subject factors, participants with BI and participants without BI, and 6 within subject factors or the 6 study condition. Finally, we use the post-hoc two-tail test to find a specific difference between any 2 study conditions. We also used post-hoc two-tail t-test to measure cybersickness and to measure the difference in physical ability between 2 participants groups. These are the results for standing visual exploration tasks. The left figure shows the no audio condition in VR, COP velocity increases most. And for other auditory condition in VR, the COP velocity was the lowest. For spatial and COP, if you say they outperform all other conditions. So they perform best in our study. We also found similar result for participants without balance impairment where spatial and COP audio outperformed others. Also, we found the similar result for the standing reach and grasp tasks where spatial COP audio outperformed all other conditions for both participants with balance impairment and participants without balance impairments. For discussion, if you see the result demonstrated that the spatial and COP audio improved balance significantly more than other auditory conditions. Spatial and COP auditory feedback changed based on the participant's position. So we hypothesized that the audio that changes with participants' positioning that provides significantly better feedback to the participant to correct their posture, which improved balance. There is no significant difference in the virtual environment on balance, no significant effect, and also we didn't find any significant increase in cybersickness. In our study, all auditory conditions improve balance where spatial and COP outperform others. However, spatial audio may be preferred over COP audio as spatial audio provides greater immersion in VR. This work will help researchers and developers to create more usable and accessible VR experiences for people with and without balance impairments. Our future work includes locomotion tasks and investigating the effect of auditory feedback on gait in VR. Here are the references. Thank you. I would also like to thank NSF for funding the project. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Rasel. Thank you everybody for the presentations. Very good work. And now let's answer some questions. We have some questions from the Discord. If anyone from the audience has also questions for Rasel, please make sure to put them on Discord that we can collect them. But for now, we have already some questions and I will start with Wu. There is a question from Steve Fina. He starts by saying, great work. I'm wondering whether the moving hard edge of your field of view restrictor might be a potential source of VR sickness. Did you consider the use of soft edge restrictors? And do you think if it would make any difference?
Thank you for the question. This is a very good suggestion. Our restrictor actually is a soft edge restrictor. However, it has a very small intermediate region, so it might look like a hard edge restrictor in the small figures. But I think this is a good suggestion. If we use a restrictor with a larger intermediate region, then it would be more helpful to have a better performance.
Good. Let me move to a little bit to Samuel. We have a question from Hifatul asking, nice talk and great. Was the training period only 1 minute for everyone? Did anyone needed more than that?
Yes, the training period was only 1 minute for everyone. Sometimes it was a little less than then. People got it right away, but nobody required any more time than that for the training period. The controls were explained ahead of time, so that might have been helpful as well. But yeah, the 1 minute was the strict training period for people. Yes.
Mm-hmm. There's also another question from Peter, which I'm also interested in knowing. So Peter said, great talk, Samuel. Was the VR simulation moving the head up and down to map the terrain?
Yes, it was. So as you crossed over bumps or irregularities, you would feel yourself within the simulation increasing or decreasing in elevation. So yeah, your head would move up and down along with that.
Yeah. So I would complement this question from Peter and add a question for myself. Do you imagine any type of solution would be to not use these terrains or to use the solution that you mentioned? I think it was from Dorado and Figueroa, mm-hmm. of this invisible terrain that's either straight or that maybe has a different type of level. What do you imagine to be the possible solutions?
Yeah, well, I think that is a very good direction to go in, to see if that solution from Dorado and Figueroa applies to broader use cases than just a staircase. So that would be probably my go-to for future work in terms of finding a direct solution to this sort of effect. I think the other obvious solution is just using this as a design tool or a guide to design environments such that this type of terrain doesn't appear more than it has to. But yeah, those would be sort of the two solutions that immediately come to mind.
Good. So let me go back a little bit to Wu very quickly. There was one question from Hitaful as well. It's great presentation and research. I was wondering if the slide field of view reduction is related to sudden turns and movement. If so, then how it might affect other VR applications where a user might want to see what's on the periphery.
Oh, this is a good question. So first, our side restrictor will only restrict the side opposite to the turn direction. So usually during the movement, user's line of sight will generally be aligned with the direction of the turn. So that means this region will be visible to the user during the turning. So even for sudden turn, the user's line of sight will not be restricted. So if it's a sudden movement, but without a turning, then the restrictor will only restrict straightforward. So hopefully this will not block users the content that the user want to see. And also, our restrictor has a smoothing process for when the restrictor shows up. So if the user suddenly start and suddenly stop, the restrictor may not show up due to the smoothing process.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. I will follow up and complement this question as well with another question that is, is it only based on gaze? Do you use eye tracking? How do you detect? How do you trigger? What do you use? Which information you use to trigger?
So we did a previous pilot study before we do the formal study. We use a Vipro eye to measure users' eye movement during turning, and we select average value for of the eye movements and use that value as the center for the restrictor during turning. And that's how we select the parameters. And so the restrictor will be triggered when users virtually movement, including virtually turning and virtually moving forward or backward. So that's how the restrictor is triggered.
Okay, super. And just as a final question, Peter also asked if you considered also testing up and down asymmetric field of view restriction as well as left and right.
Actually, we ever did another research about a ground visible restrictor, which leaves the ground region, which is the bottom side, become visible during locomotion. And we published a paper this year. I can post the link of the paper in the Discord later. So in this research, we investigate a restrictor which has the bottom side become visible to the user all the time. So in the future, we may have the chance to start the upper visible restrictor or restrictor like the Peter suggested, upper and down asymmetric restrictor. Yes, this might be a plan in the future. Thank you for the suggestion.
Thank you. So let me talk a little bit with Rasel. I really like the work that you presented. We are still collecting questions, but I have a question myself. That is this imbalance for your subjects that had presented impairment. They could come from different reasons. It could be due to MS or old age. I wonder if you have any evidence that for depending on the reason that causes the imbalance, that there is a difference between the subjects, and if there is a difference on the effects of your solution. So if the auditory feedback helps more or less the different folks in different ways.
Thank you for the question. Yeah. So actually that is our future research. This time we also only recruited the participant who had basically MS. So they are with multiple sclerosis. So only this one kind participant we investigated. But if we like shared them in different group, like MS group, Parkinson group, or maybe like vestibular dysfunction, and like analyze their data in different groups, then we might find some result. But for now, we don't have any evidence because we only investigate the MS, the participant who had MS. Yep.
Okay, fair enough.
But that's a very good suggestion. Maybe in future research, we can consider that, like recruiting from various groups and analyze those data and see if we get any difference.
I really like the solution. Another question that came to my head is also, how do you envision the solution be applied to different applications? So how a designer that's building a VR application can implement the auditory feedback?
Okay, I think for other like for visual feedback, if I compare with visual feedback, auditory, or maybe the haptic feedback, auditory feedback might be a little bit easier in my sense because it doesn't affect that much in your VR scene. Just like audio thing you are applying and just the audio signal is going. And in Unity 3D, you can just specialize or you can send any kind of audio to the participants. I think from my sense, auditory feedback, you can implement it easily. You know, better than the visual or haptic, whatever. So, and for the details implementation, if you want me to explain, actually that's in the paper. Yeah, but for static rest frame audio, we just, as I explained, we delivered a static audio signal to the participants. And for the rhythmic, it was 1 second interval we sent to the participant. But for the COP audio, we had some implication complexity, I would say, because we stream the data from the balance board to LabVIEW software, and then through sockets, we stream those data to Unity to put the x-axis balance to pitch in Unity and y-axis balance to stereo band in Unity. So this is like a little bit complex compared to others. Also, it didn't investigate, as we are using these sockets, if it will work greatly in a lower latency or how it will work in a higher latency, something like that. So COP audio might be a little bit complex, but for rhythmic, static rest frame, or maybe spatial also, it should be easier compared to COP.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But your COP solution was the one that you had more success, right?
Yes, spatial and COP. But we hypothesized spatial might be best because it had greater immersion in VR. Also, it's slightly better performed than COP, but it was not significant.
Good, good. Let me check if I have more questions here. There is another question from Samuel from Wallasey. Can you comment on the potential confound of increased optical flow due to the increased texture created by the shadows, perhaps flying over the terrain without moving the camera position?
If I understand, yeah, thank you for the question. I think it's a really interesting observation. Our simulation didn't actually feature any shadows, although I think it's interesting to think of because the texture of the ground and the divots and the distortions certainly create increased optical flow. Though that would be very interesting to explore as a potential explanation for some of the results we saw. It would be, yeah, so the topic of future, it would be interesting to look into this in future work. Although it would be difficult to kind of separate that out because if you look at the solution Dorado and Figueroa had, where they don't change the elevation, or rather they keep the elevation smoothed by something like a flat surface, you're now introducing other confounds like predictability, where if your movements don't match the ground, there's other things there. But it would be very interesting to explore that in a future study to see if just the optical flow and the visualization of the terrain had any sort of impact on its own.
Super. I think I have a question now that it's for all of the three of you. Because one thing that I noticed when I was going through your papers was that I really like the way you described your test subjects in terms of their demographics and the sense of inclusion, but also trying to balance out the groups. So, for instance, in the work from Wu, she also mentioned that try to balance out male and female participants and the different groups. And I was wondering your efforts of trying to take in consideration those variables as well on your assessment, especially in terms of age. There is some studies that discuss the relation between age and cybersickness. So maybe I can ask all of you, Wu and Eng and Mahmud, if you tested things like gender and age and their relation with the results you had on your studies or not, or if you have any idea of a possible effect of those factors.
Would anyone like to go first? I can go first, I guess. So I guess in our paper, we didn't run a formal statistical analysis looking at gender differences, although that's something we will definitely probably do at a later date. Yeah, I think it's important to try to strive for balances in gender and try to get a broader age gap. It's very easy when conducting studies to only recruit students from university. And I think that's led to a trend in a lot of your research of examining mostly younger people, and our understanding of cybersickness and discomfort and just the general user experience of VR can definitely be shaded by that. I don't know if anybody else has something to contribute to this question.
Okay, so maybe I can go, yeah. So yeah, that's a great point, because age and gender, that should affect, like with cybersickness and on balance. If someone is like older, more than 65, so he or she should have more balance issue. So, but in our study, we didn't investigate this thing. We didn't differentiate the gender or the age. Our inclusion criteria was just 18 plus. And if someone is over 65, then we recommended you have to have a COVID-19 vaccination. So maybe in future, we can analyze that. That's a good point. Thanks.
Yeah, we didn't run analysis for gender and age. One reason is our gender is not actually balanced. Although we try our best to balance the gender, but we receive only 30 female participants compared with, but we will have over 60 male participants. So the number of male participants is twice as female participants. So we cannot run the analysis for gender. And also we didn't count the age as a variables inside the experiment. So that's why we also didn't analyze the age.
But thank you for your answers. Yeah, it's for one side, it's obvious the challenges, especially most of your studies are also done remotely due to COVID, the pandemic challenges, and so on. So yeah, there are many challenges related to recruiting and making sure to cover all those factors. But again, very important and very, I think, in line with the studies that you all are doing. So maybe it's one thing for future work as well to consider. In any case, thank you very much for your presentations, for your work. Very good work. I hope you guys also stay in contact with each other. I think there is some nice overlaps on the things you are doing. And if anyone has further questions, can always ask on Discord. I think I only have one final question that I didn't make to Rasel. That says, great and important work. Do you know what's the mechanism by which auditory signals seem to impact the onset of cybersickness? In this case, it should be imbalance. But maybe that you can talk a little bit about what exactly is the effect of the auditory feedback.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That's also an opportunity for me to talk about, again, the study conditions. So if you see, we had 4 study conditions. For static diaphragm and the rhythmic audio, it was continuous and uniform, and it didn't change based on center pressure or the balance data. So for this case, it will affect less on cybersickness, these two conditions. But if you see at the condition of spatial or the COP audio condition, these are changing when participants are moving like left, right, something. It's like the sound are changing based on his position, based on the data from the balance board and the participant's position. So this abrupt change on noise, audio, auditory feedback, sometimes high, sometimes low, sometimes there is no if the participant is in the middle. So this will make more cybersickness. These two conditions supposed to make more cybersickness for participants because these are changing rapidly and the participant is changing their position. Also, I noticed one paper, this VR 2022. They also investigate this audio thing and they found spatial audio had greater effect for cybersickness. So yeah, maybe that might be the cause. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think that's it for questions. You can always stay attentive to the Discord channel. Eventually someone else can make further questions there. But for now, I think that's it. I thank you all for your presentations. And I wish you a good rest of conference, final day of conference for you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.